Dear world, if you're watching what's happening in Gaza right now, you're probably angry. And justifiably so. But ask yourself, where are you directing that anger?
This quote, anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state has to support the bolstering of Hamas and transferring money to Hamas. This is part of our strategy to isolate the Palestinians in Gaza from the Palestinians in the West Bank. That was Prime Minister Netanyahu in 2019.
Behind every tragic photo of Gaza, Hamas is pulling the strings, creating more casualties, producing more pain, just so that you will be angry.
I don't respect that anymore. I really don't. I don't like and I don't respect the crocodile tears. Please shut up! That I will not be silent when Israel commits its crimes against the Palestinians.
Anger at Israel is Hamas's secret weapon. This anger fuels them, legitimizes them, funds them to continue attacking us and to terrorize Jews around the world. That's why Hamas is doing everything they can to ensure that civilians in Gaza die.
I used to be so proud to have even made it there. Like, back in the day, you used to have the words, do no evil in front of the doors. Like, so many Muslims work there. The most disappointing thing in the world is to have the smartest people in the world at the biggest tech company buy into this propaganda bullshit. It hurts. I used to brag. I really did. Like, what the happened?
In the war that Hamas dragged us into. That's why Hamas uses ambulances and why they put their headquarters under hospitals.
What it's all about. This is the Suez Canal. This is owned by Egypt. The Suez Canal makes about $9 billion a year. And where does that $9 billion go to? It goes to Egypt. Egypt nationalized the canal, so it makes all the profit. So who's not collecting on this are the Americans, the British, and the French, and the Israelis. They want to change that. Enter the Ben Gurion Canal Project over here. This is what's happening right now in the Middle East. What we're seeing on TV is all a ploy. It's all about granting access for this canal.
That's why Hamas prevents people from evacuating a war zone, why they don't mind when their own rockets land inside Gaza, why they steal food, water, electricity, and fuel.
Just before this so-called war broke out, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis protesting Netanyahu outside the Knesset and in the streets of Tel Aviv. Why? Because he was trying to implement a so-called judicial reform plan that would have stripped the Israeli Supreme Court of its ability to prosecute him for those corruption charges. Now, why would a man who's desperate to cling to power appoint Itamar Ben-Gvir as the Minister of National Security, a man who was literally not allowed to be in the Israeli army because of how extreme his views are? Do you understand? The Israeli army commits brutalities against Palestinians every day, yet the current Minister of of National Security in Israel is so extreme against Palestinians that the IDF was like, nah, it doesn't matter that we have a draft that says every Israeli has to join the military at 18. You are way too extreme to join.
Of the Israeli government holding a private convention here in the United States. One of the people in attendance at this secret meeting was Judith Varnai Shorer. She's a former Israeli consul general who was operating out of Atlanta. She was one of the main people saying that the biggest problem that they had was young black people in the United States. But don't worry, they've got some black leaders on the payroll.
The major problem of Israel is with the young generation of the black community.
Hamas is doing everything they can in every possible way to ensure that civilians in Gaza die, just so that they can blame it on Israel, just so that you will be angry.
I was born and raised in Israel until I was 10 years old. I left in 2007, making me 27 years old now. I wanted to talk about what I remember about the indoctrination of children into Zionism using media which I was subjected to and every single person I knew was subjected to. Zionism was even integrated into the educational system. Like, we learned that this was our birthright in school, like multiple times every year. So I've been surrounded by Zionists for a very long time, and even after I came to the US, I was still surrounded by Zionists because my parents are Zionists, and so are all their friends. So when I tell you that any single reason any Zionist gives you for why they hate Palestinians, you can go ahead and chuck that straight out the window, because the actual reason they hate Palestinians is because they're straight up fucking racist. That is it. They just hate brown and black people.
הדבר העיקרי הוא קודם כל לתת להם מכות, לא רק מכות כל כך מכינות, שהמחיר יהיה כבד מנשוא. כרגע המחיר לא כבד מנשוא. זו התקפה רבת היקף על הרשות הפלסטינית. זה לפחד שהכל מתמודד.
ואז רגע, אבל אז השוק העולם יגיד מה, אתם כובשים? אתה לא מפחד מהעולם, ביבי.
במיוחד היום עם אמריקה, אני יודע מה זה אמריקה. אמריקה זה דבר שאפשר להזיז אותו בקלות, להזיז לכיוון הנכון.
I want to be clear. Everything we're doing in Gaza now to dismantle Hamas, we're doing because we have to.
Between 1947 and 1949, 3/4 of all Palestinians living in historic Palestine were systematically uprooted and violently expelled from their homes and villages by Zionist militias. Over 4 million acres of land were stolen. 400 towns destroyed, hundreds of Palestinians massacred. This may have been the realization of a dream for Zionists, but for Palestinians, it was the beginning of a nightmare that has continued for over 70 years. These events are known to them not as Israeli independence, but as the Nakba, the catastrophe. Describing the Nakba as a dream is a provocation, a deliberate and cruel insult to millions of Palestinians all over the world. It is unacceptable and must be condemned.